business, so everybody's here.
Okay.
Okay, so the agenda seems to be in order, and I will accept a motion on the consent agenda, which is the warrants, which have been signed by 3 people, and the minutes.
So I have a question on the minutes before we
Sure.
vote.
Yeah.
It's moved, then I'll second it. On the second page, or maybe it's the third page, the last page, under planning, the fourth bullet, board expressed a strong desire to involve the public more specifically in addressing concerns of balance in the school, and set a date for that forum, November 6th meeting. And we're going to schedule.
Discuss that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that date has actually changed because it's not firm now. So.
Well, the question that we didn't decide, at least my understanding was not that we decided to have a forum at one of our meetings. What I had asked for is that we meet separately to plan the strategy for engaging the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So that'll be clear when we go over the work.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we should change the minutes then, because it's wrong.
Yeah.
I
So
wrote that
just-
because that was my understanding walking out here, so it's good you.
And
So delete that.
so
and
just
send
say,
it.
put a period after school,
Yeah.
and then just delete the rest of it. So that is the friendly amendment to the minutes. Is there anything else?
May I have permission to friendly amend?
Sure.
I just want to clarify with the warrant, thank you for filling in, but it says under new business, when an investigator returning them told the school to be charged a $1,000 restocking fee. It was about $1,000, but just to be clear, we also had to, it was restocking and shipping and handling, so I don't want you to think it was just a $1,000 restocking fee.
Okay.
I think it's good to note that. People would probably think that.
They'll feel like a pretty big restocking fee, but we also had to ship 5.
Can you just point out where on the,
Second page, towards the bottom, under new business, second
Okay.
paragraph.
thanks. Any other questions, changes, concerns? All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you. Are there any administrative reports? Can I start? Yeah, go for it, yeah. All right.
Just a couple of things. Well, let me start with the noteworthy accomplishments. I don't know if I told the board this or not, our tooth tutor received the Dental Hygienist of the State Award back in August, the same day that we were having our retreat with Madeline Cuny, which was amazing. We are in the throes of producing the documents that we need to demonstrate in response to the federal review findings, and I have one order of business that I need from the board tonight regarding that. And this was passed by Policy Council last week, and now I'm asking for the endorsement of the board. And basically what is going around is an excerpt from our personnel policies, and I'm asking that you bring your attention to our employee morale benefits. And this this is a policy that I brought before the board years ago. And it was, it passed muster with the federal sources back then and went through an attorney. And it was about being able to use program resources to provide employee morale incentives. And that the shift in the political climate has moved away from that. And one of the findings, our one and only fiscal finding in the review, was that we used agency money to gift employees, and that was back in December of 2011 when we gave everyone a $25 gift card. And so there has been lots of conversation amongst the staff and particularly with the management team around how we can continue to bolster staff morale, which is fairly vulnerable right now given the sequestration impact. We're still reeling from that, and now there is some threat of another impact, so things are pretty shaky. and so we will continue to do non-monetary, tangible kinds of incentives, but more around revering staff and staff meetings and, just all of those other ways of bolstering their morale. So my proposal to you, as was to Policy Council last week, is that we entirely remove this policy, which would then bring us into compliance.
So the whole section R.
Yes, R would be deleted, that whole section.
And so, do you need a motion to accept that proposal from the Policy Council?
It has been accepted
Right,
by
and
the Policy Council.
and so they're
recommending, yes.
Yeah, they're recommending to us.
Yes.
One of you should make that.
I move we accept the policy council's recommendation to remove the policy.
And I'll second that.
Any other discussions or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks.
The only other bit of news is that we are dealing with some pretty significant issues at Canal Street, building issues. And my recommendation, if we're going to be looking at a monthly report, is that might be something we include, because it's forever. I think Canal Street is the oldest building we own, if I'm not mistaken.
I think actually, yes, Steve.
Vestibule, I think, is.
Might be.
Oh,
But
so
it's
we're
pretty
second
old.
in line.
It's the
And
most historic.
it's charming and has lots of wonderful. But I told you a few months ago that we had some bats, an issue with the bat.
You're going
And
batty.
that was,
35,000.
remediated at the time. However, we have 3 colonies of bats that are living in the building at the moment, and we brought in a specialist who is recommending, they're cordoned off so that they can't come down from the belfry in the attic. But they will migrate soon. And once they leave the building, the first bid that we got was for $35,000 to shore up all of the crevices, make sure they don't come back. We're still soliciting other bids, but that one
How are they, what's the proposal to get rid of it?
is, well,
They'll move
they
out on
will
their own.
leave, they'll
Yeah.
migrate.
Right.
Soon.
Yeah.
And some of them he felt were protected.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
we don't
'cause-
want to harm the bats.
Yeah.
I felt really bad taking one
Bats
to
are having a
Boston.
tough time.
I mean, really tough. So that was the initial bid that we received.
So they're gonna do what, basically?
They're just gonna plug up all the holes, basically.
In the-
In the building,
Masonry?
go around, yes, between the roof and the bricks and, do a thorough, this proposal is to go from the basement up to the belfry and,
The bats are living obviously in the
Attic.
above, in the attic, yeah. Is there any way to seal the attic off so that you don't have to worry about it?
Well, we had done that before CABA did the renovations in the building. And when they did that, when they put in the elevator, evidently that disturbed it. Because this is not the first time we've had problems with bats. And so now evidently, the first bidder feels that there needs to be more extensive focus put on it. But right now, they are in the attic. They are
they
retained
belong.
in the attic.
They're sequestered to the attic.
Yes.
Yes.
But the thing about having them live in a building like that year after year, their guano and stuff
guano
builds up,
builds
right?
up and causes all sorts of other problems that are probably more expensive than this.
Well, that's why
Right.
the sealing it off,
Right, and
because
the
it does
first time around. we
gradually
had to do-
dry out and turn to dust.
Right, but the
It's-
first time
it's
around, I
by the
guess there
garage.
were piles and piles of it.
I'm sure.
And all that used to be bugs.
I
So,
know.
yeah, so
There's
we
a
don't want
The
downside
thing
to
is, our
everything, I
mosquito
guess. Yeah.
population is low at Canal.
Yeah.
That's right, exactly.
No, by the zillions, that's
Yeah.
why I'm thinking seal it off and
Yeah.
let them stay.
Yeah.
But isn't that kind of what that estimate is?
The estimate, is to
So the
let them
estimate's gonna be
leave.
to scaffold the building and
Right,
climb around every inch of it and plug every hole that there is.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it's 35,000.
A lot of foam.
We have had some issues with the chimney, the first third of the chimney, the bricks are falling off and they're actually damaging the roof. And so we've received again one bid that, to repair those bricks, and there's something like 70 bricks that have to be replaced, and to repoint them is in the neighborhood of $20,000. We have done some repair of the roof over the portico, which is leaking, and then in the winter causes issues because it turns to ice, and that's when the entrance into the building. So we've done some, to the tune of $500, some, sort of preventative amendment, but it really needs a much bigger job. And then there are gutters or drainage conduits that are insufficient. And so the recommendation is that we have a plumber come and take a look at that, and we're thinking that might be about $500. And then our heating system is obsolete, and let me say that Jim Kane is working with us on the numbers 4 and 5, in that he's going to include this as part of the study that we're doing for all the other buildings. And in the meantime, our control module, which I understand to be the brains of the furnace, to replace that, it's $14,500. Right now, we're renting a new one for $500 a month. And then the recommendation was that we deal with this in segments, and that the first segment to replace micro zone number 1 would be an additional $1,100. But again, Jim is encompassing that in a bigger scope. And then our retaining wall, there's a big tree up on top of the playground that the roots are affecting the retaining wall. So Jim wants to have an engineer take a look at that to recommend what to do with that, because the retaining wall is declining. So we clearly don't have all this money, but we are trying to, prioritize, and I just wanted to let you know that.
What is the retaining wall, what's above it? There?
On the top is a playground.
Okay, so it's not a street or anything.
Right.
So
Playground.
it's us.
I remember when we fixed the lower one on the sidewalk, and that was
Yes.
big bucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the approximate value on Canal Street?
The facility?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even begin to guess. I think when we were dealing with the renovations for Cava, thinking 200,000.
For the facility?
For the whole
No,
building.
the upgrades was 600,000.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
It's a huge amount of value. Yeah,
It's priceless.
Well, I mean, it's also on the National Register.
Right.
Which means we have to do special things.
Right.
And it's built
If you wanna do
from
anything.
stone that
You
was
can let
carved
it fall
from the
apart.
mountain.
You could let it fall apart, but
You can't,
it's,
yeah.
yeah. So, there's a lot of things about it, more than just its value as a school.
That's right. It's home to 3 bat populations.
And it's an excellent bat.
Think of all the
house.
eastern equalist artists that has been avoided because of this pass.
There you go.
And Deb, we talk a lot at Policy Council about finding those matching dollars, the in-kind. If we fix this sort of thing, does that go?
If we fix it with non-federal money, it certainly does.
One small positive, possibly.
Yeah. If you could get some of these contractors to kick in some in kind, that would
Yes.
also be lovely.
Well, I will
Unlikely,
say
but
that our consultant, Mr. McCusick, has by and large in-kinded his time to help us navigate this.
So maybe he can write something up.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Okay.
That's gonna be fun for the budget year, so, thanks.
Jen's going to go next, and part of her report is going to be a action item that we really need to take tonight related to classroom lighting fixtures that have failed.
It's better to light a candle than curse the bad lighting.
They didn't
Just
get
don't set
wet.
the fire
did
alarm.
they? Did they fail because they were wet?
No,
Oh, good.
no, we had some leaks, but we're figuring those out.
So this is a document that Jim had prepared, and I'm going to ask Jim to just give a little background on it.
So along the vein of buildings, we have been looking forward to the Entergy's audit. I would call it that, we're going to have done at all the schools. So we were holding off for that, but in our upstairs classroom, in our fourth grade, fifth grade, kindergarten room, and parent room, so if you know the building, that's the wing over here, the addition with the glass block that was done, I think sometime in the 50s, is that?
Probably.
Probably, I was going to ask you about that. So the lights up there, we've had trouble with the lens covers, so they were already on our radar. But last Friday, while in class, 2 of the light ballasts caught on fire. So we have to have an electrician in the building working on the doors. Brought him up, and he's inspected them, and it's because of age. They're just corroded, and they can't be replaced. So the electrician quickly went through, and we was not using 2 rows of the lights because they were in the worst state. And then Jim came, I called Ron, and then Ron and Jim and I talked again, and Jim contacted Matt. Is it Kylie or Killy? Kylie, who came and did an inspection yesterday, got us a quote right away, and said, you absolutely need to replace all of these lights as soon as possible. They are a risk.
Who's the Kylie company? What are they?
He's the person that's been doing the energy upgrades throughout the SU based on Efficiency Vermont.
Okay.
So he's been I guess he's a local contractor, but it looks like we're going to get quotes from local electricians to get the
Exactly.
work done as soon as possible.
Right.
He's kind of put this together for us quickly, knowing that.
You know, the electricians?
So Matt was the first. We've had another local company come in and look as well, so we're getting the specs on what we need done. But first, I had to be educated a little bit about foot candles and another new word for me to know about things, and about lighting levels that are this state requirements. So I have one quote in my hand. My custodian is going to use these specs, and Greg Frost will have hopefully quotes in the next 48 hours to get this finished up.
And the scope of the project does not require 3 bids and that sort of
It's under
thing.
15.
And a lot of it's going to be related to what company is available to do the work as soon as possible. So, and as you can see from the line that
The
it'll be
specs
covered
in-
in the operations and maintenance budget that we already have.
Do you know what kind of bulbs?
And
Did you
you're
get
gonna
that
You're
much?
going to make me say volumetric,
Really? I wonder what that
the way I
means.
said it? Or
No, I wonder what that means. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Tube lighting?
Looking for light emitting diodes.
They are, can I email it to you?
Are
what
they
I have?
cheap?
They're not cheap, but they are within the standards that are not the, they called it the light bomb that sometimes comes with some of these fluorescent lights that comes
Yeah,
down and
yeah.
reflects. And the foot candle is 30, and that means the light from the ceiling to the workspace, the reflection. And the standard somewhere between 25 and 30. On any given day in our building, we have between 80 and 130 in some of the classrooms
Yeah.
because of, it's sunny, it's bright, we have great windows, but we have very fluorescent lights.
And Matt's doing the work at the same specs that he's done in Vernon, Putney, and Dummerston as part of the Efficiency Vermont upgrade. So it'll be what we need
efficient.
to do.
So if there's
beyond-
LED options that would be cheaper, or?
There are not, and there's something about the technology with LED yet that they cause. His recommendation was that those cause a little buzzing and a flicker, which is in schools is often associated with headaches with students, and
Seizures, maybe?
seizures was the
Yeah.
other. But I can pass my little sheet over to you, David, if you like.
No, it's
But
okay.
he did a quick outbreak of the savings, and his estimated by moving to these new lighting systems with the energy with the lower foot candle, for one of the classrooms, the 4th grade classroom, it would be $290 a savings per year in the first year, just on electrical costs.
And it's 3 classrooms?
It's 3 classrooms in
Yeah.
our parent room.
So we're looking
at
at
the lighting.
$1,000 a year almost in
Mhm.
savings. And as the electric rates go up, that becomes more. Because that's
That's the
electricity we're not buying at a higher rate.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
that's-
We have a solar.
And again, this is something we plan to do through this energy audit, but it,
Yeah, so we need a motion to accept this.
So moved.
I will second that one.
And so, Jane, do you have the piece of paper?
She does.
yes.
Approve the replacing of the lighting in the classrooms at the cost not to exceed $10,500.
Can you imagine that happening on a Saturday?
So do we actually vote on things in the budget? Why are we?
This is just a special request that we need, so you don't have to worry about where it's coming from, Jim does, in terms of maintenance and operations, but we just want to make sure that you're aware of this request and that it formalizes it through a vote.
Because we wouldn't, I mean, we don't always.
No, because it would have been planned, this is
Yeah.
unplanned.
It's outside of it, and it's a pretty big number still, so. So we have a move in a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. Other Oak Grove news, I just want to share with you, one of the things that is part of our, you've probably seen this document in the schools, do a homeschool compact. And some of our, just a second. You may have seen this already, our schools have put this in, you'll see it in the Brattleboro Town School District Handbook. But I just want to share this with you, that this is something as a school, part of our social curriculum with our kids. These went home to all parents, students signed them in class, parents brought them home, we are now getting those returned, we don't have a 100% return rate. But what we are doing as part of our guiding principles and our Monday meetings, we're planning an entire lesson around this. So the students and teachers are going to spend some time, we're going to work on this document together. All of them are back, but the teachers haven't signed them yet because we're going to do some classroom lessons, and then we're going to send these home again as a reminder of just our expectations for students, our expectations for parents, for me, and for our teachers about what we agreed to do to create strong, healthy kids. So that was good for you to see. A couple other quick things. Our staff just, I want to share that our staff has been spending a lot of time this last week looking at our climate survey results from last year. And just take a moment to say how incredibly proud and excited I am to work with such dedicated individuals. That we have spent we've had a lot of hard conversations about data around climate and what are the things we need to do to make sure that our number one priority is that we have high expectations for our students, academically, socially, and emotionally.
Jen, what do you mean when you say hard conversations around data?
The data from the climate survey, and what I mean by that is to say our preconceived ideas about what we think our students can do, our preconceived ideas about where they come from, our belief that students are happy and are cared for, and those ideas about what we think they're going through their day, and then reflecting on ourselves about what we could do better and the things that we can challenge ourselves to do. And I mean, it was hard in that we had to say, oh, I wish I did go out for recess more. Oh, I need to spend a little more time with this child or this group, or I could open my classroom up at. I mean, it was just, these are all positive things because what I hear was teachers saying, well, you know what, how about I keep that child after school 2 days a week to just have this connection with them, that we can do this little tutoring session, do buzzwords. As teachers, like I do, I'm one of the volunteers that we have 2 times a week, we have early bird homework club. Well, it means you come in early and you have kids and you lose that time in the morning. So it was us as a staff going, you know what, all of us should be doing that. And it came from our staff that we were all like, okay, what can I do? What can I do more of to make sure these kids feel connected? And we talked about bullying and harassment, and that's the part that was the hard data when we really looked at how some of our kids are feeling. And data can paint a picture, and you can kind of make your story from what that looks like. And we just, as a staff, resisted making excuses, and it was wonderful in some ways. I think there's one question that says our students, adults believe in me and what I can do, or something like that. And I think our rates were like 94%, which is fantastic. That's like yay. And there's other things that said some of the hard data was things about I've been bullied, or I pick on others, or I know the right thing to do, or I would stand up for someone if they were being picked on. it's like, oh, really? You know, those kind of things. But it was just a really amazing staff meeting that was really exhausting and just speaks so highly of our teachers and what they're doing and what they believe in that social piece. So I share that with you. I don't know if I'm as articulate as I could be about that. But
Pretty articulate.
okay. So this is all part of, I think, when we talk about academics in our schools, there's a lot of things that, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about academics, when we talk about culture and community, there are a lot of things that are happening all the time. So I'm trying to think of more things that I can share with you about the conversations that are happening at our school and how much that balance means to us, that our students have all of that and that we are very aware of it. So my last things are next board meeting. I would like to suggest or offer that my RTI, which is Response to Intervention, is a movement in our district, and you may have heard the words but don't always know what they mean. One of the 1% funds that you approved last year was about working on our RTI committee, which we'll talk about. That John Sessions is my special educator who heads that committee, facilitates that committee. Chelsea Wheel, my kindergarten teacher, and 2 others are part of that committee. They would like to come on the 2nd and present. The only caveat is that John Sessions' baby is due that week, so we may have to do a little shuffle.
He may have to bring the baby.
Something's
Yes,
He may have to bring the baby.
Right? Yeah.
Does he have a backup presenter?
Yes, he does.
Good.
Yeah, so,
So
Yeah, his
if
wife.
we could put that on the agenda. It's his wife. Yes, the new baby.
She might update you.
yeah.
She might. And then my last little
Show
data
tell.
for you is that we are currently at 132 students, and that represents 104 families. I looked this up. When we left the school year, we had 135, I think. So we had 12 students leave, representing 10 families. So we have 9 new families. No, 8 new we have 8 new families, 9 new students. So we almost did a complete swap. That's not kindergarten. So if you look at our data, that's almost 10% of our families have moved out and new families have moved in since last June. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good.
Yeah.
Mo just finished running the percentage of our students receiving free and reduced lunch, and we're up to 69%, 171 out of 247 kids. We thought it was 68, but she got a few new apps in today, so we're 69%, that's high. It's presenting some challenges for us, but there's a lot of need out there.
That's about where you were last year, or it's up? a
No,
little
it's
bit?
about 10% higher.
Higher.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were like 65 last year.
No, we might have cracked 60 at one point, but it's almost a 10% jump. Yeah. So, we have our first big fundraiser of the year coming up, our tag sale. We can pass these around. Coming up on Saturday, the 28th. Last year it was very successful. We had the first one, raised about $2,500. This year we'll probably do at least as well. So you can even come and donate things if you'd like. They're taking donations. You can see listed down here Thursday, September 26th from 2:45 to 7, and Friday. We're going to use the gym to sort the things out. It will be a rain or shine event. It'll be in the gym if it's raining and outdoors if it's not. Last year it was close. There was a lot of rain Friday, but it cleared up Saturday and it worked really well. A lot of families came, and like I say, we had a lot of things move, a lot of good things were donated, and a lot of people made out really well. So there's a really dedicated group of volunteers and teachers working on that. But one thing the PTO would hope that there would be a lot more teacher participation and staff participation this year. And people are stepping up to the plate. There's a lot of people signing up to help, whether volunteering, baked goods, a lot of different things. So that's great. Sadie Fashesser, I always mispronounce her name, parent at our school. She's writing a grant to try and get some money for our playground. I'll just pass around some pictures that we have of the original work days that we had in June, cleaning up the old structure, painting some maps on the blacktop and so on, and it even looks better than this now. One thing that was sad was that rain that came last Thursday, the torrential downpour. We do have right at the bottom of where Florida is on the big U.S. map is a storm drain. And apparently, I just found out from Kevin, I never knew this, instead of a regular 10-inch storm drain, they have a 4 inches going out. So when we get that type of downpour, it always backs up. So it looks like a big mud swamp down there in the bayou right now. So we're gonna. But you know, we do have tomorrow is our open house. A reminder: 5:30, 6:30. So we're gonna get out there and hose it and sweep it off so it looks a little brighter and cleaner tomorrow. But as you can see, one of our parents, Jonathan Kinnersley, made these stencils that we painted. This very festive little caterpillar, and it's a lot of fun. Got a lot of good work done on those days. There is some excavation work that's going to be done. We were going to have it done actually last Friday, but then after, and we're going to move the recesses up to the Kroll lot that day. But after that rain came Thursday, Dave Manning, who was going to come and do the excavation work, was completely out straight doing road repairs, and it was not in any kind of condition to have that work done anyway then. So we're hoping that's going to be done in the next week or so. And then Edvin, I never remember Edvin's last name. Yeah, he's going to do some stone work in there. That's all within the confines of the budget. We still have money left there from the $20,000 that the board earmarked for that. And again, the PTO is very thankful for that. They wanted me to pass that on to the board. So that's coming along great. Not only is it open house tomorrow, but it's also the big Locavore Day. We're participating. Kids are eating healthy snacks for local foods for healthy snack, lunch, and serving refreshments at the open house tomorrow night. So we're making a big deal out of it. Catherine Gillespie from Food Connects will be there. We're going to have a lot of other informational tables out for parents, in addition to them visiting the classrooms tomorrow. And it's also our first third Thursday of the year, so just tons of stuff going on. If you want to come by for coffee and donuts early, help yourself. Mo has been doing a really good job tabulating our absent and tardy rates this year, and we're putting a lot of reminders in the daily announcements. Words out going in the weekly newsletter, and right now we're averaging about 5 kids absent a day. That's 98% present, and about 97% are on time. So that's already better than last year, so we're happy to see that.
Jen, do you have your numbers too for free and reduced lunch, just out of curiosity?
No, free reduced lunch, the forms are actually due October 1st, so we don't have everything in. I asked Sue this week, and I think it's better to wait.
And John, your numbers haven't changed student-wise, pretty much?
The enrollment is, we gained 1 student this week in kindergarten, but we did, last time we calculated it, it was 176, which was 68%, but some more came in this week. Just about an hour before I came to this meeting, Mo gave me the update, which was 5 more up to 69%.
Tomorrow is our open house. We call it back to school night, and we start with a barbecue, chicken barbecue, in front of the school.
It's going to be a good day
for an annual event. Yes, a beautiful evening. So if you want to take your significant other out for dinner, it's on me. Come on by. Jen is our master chef. She loves grilling that chicken, and so we do that from 5 to 6, and at 6 the open house portion begins, and we invite families into classrooms at 6, and we do the open house portion twice. Teachers have a presentation they're supposed to do, talking about expectations, procedures, and introduce themselves to parents and so forth, from 6 to 6:30. Then we repeat it at 6:30 for parents who have more than one child in the school, so they can make it to more than one classroom. And that's fun. And coincidentally, it's also one of our fundraisers tomorrow for winter sports. We have the Welcome Center.
Oh,
snacks or
On 91.
cakes and coffee and so forth on 91.
yeah, good.
We get that. We do that every year. It's a lottery. Sometimes we've gotten very fortunate and have gotten the long weekend in October.
Mhm.
This year, just the date we got.
So is it, what day is it?
Tomorrow, Thursday, all day. So if you're out on 91 heading north from Greenfield,
Yeah.
stop in for a coffee or cider or something.
Or head south and do a U-turn?
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go down
Just
to
contribute to
the
the tax
Don't say
revenues.
that we suggested you do that. So we've been putting, I think all of us, have been putting lots of time and energy into our bus routes, into the buses, into the routes and student behavior, and we're really making an effort this year to improve that, because it's a concern, I think, in our district. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out ways to improve that, including the routes, and we're still working on some of the bugs. So if you're getting complaints from parents that the buses are overcrowded or that they're late, we're addressing it as best we can. We'll continue to work on it.
Just an update, B7, he's saying that he's gonna shoot for tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah,
Start it,
that's what I was hoping.
and he's gonna call me in the morning.
Good.
If we know, adding this extra bus route in, but it would be important to know the bus stop time, so we can call families and let them know. Times. Could change up to 15, 20 minutes, really, for,
Yeah,
at least. for
at
some
least
of them.
20 minutes, maybe more for some kids.
Are all the buses going to have assigned seats? Is that part of your plan?
We've not stated that as such, no.
So if they do, it's just an individual bus thing?
We encourage that in most cases on the buses, that the drivers do assign seats. It's, but I don't believe we've not required that as a district as a policy, and the bus company has not required that of their drivers. But I think we've urged them to do that.
Some drivers do it as a practice.
So our school improvement team, I think in one of the previous meetings I mentioned that we are now using Green Mountain Star as well. Our school improvement team met for the first time today, and we'll be beginning that process. The good news for us is that we're able to take our present action plan, which I believe you have a copy of, and pretty much import that into the Green Mountain Star. So that will be be used as the basis of our work. We'll tweak that. We may add to it and so forth, but that will be the framework or the foundation of our work. I just want to let you know, I know we run names by you. We hired new teachers. Just wanted to give you an update, because this year we're very fortunate. We've hired some great teachers at Academy, and I'm sure at Oak Grove and Green as well. But our the four folks that we hired at Academy are all doing great. I'm really, really impressed. And of course, the fifth person is Erin, our music teacher, who works in all three schools, and she's really been gearing up. And full band starts Monday next week for the kids' grades 5 and 6, I believe. Right, she's rolling that out. Lessons will be only for grade 4 for a while, and then once they're ready, she'll roll out full band rehearsal for those guys.
Has she done the band, the fourth graders, have they gotten their band night instruments?
That's tonight, or
Is it tonight? Yeah, they pick up at
I think
Academy.
it's tonight, I believe, or I think it's tonight.
I think it is.
Within the next few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not tonight, it's within the next few days, so. So she's done a complete inventory of instruments, and we're, right now, a lot of the instruments are being repaired, and she's trying to organize who gets a school instrument and who has to rent an instrument. We don't have enough instruments that we own to supply every student with that. So she's creating a system to do that. And and we are right at, I think at the, met with her today, and we are out of instruments. So that's something we need to consider, and there'll be something in the budget for next year. We need to begin an instrument buying program. You know, we want to increase the number of the students who participate in band, but we have more and more students who are participating but who cannot afford to purchase or sort of rent an instrument. $18 a month, $25 a month is not really, for a lot of folks, it's just not something they can afford right now. So we need to really look at that and begin to devote some funds in the future to buying more instruments for the schools.
Can we encourage an instrument gifting program?
We talked about that today as well.
Yeah.
And yes, we do. And we
Because
want
the
to do that.
community once said that they were gonna help our music program. What a great time to do it, and a way to do it.
Yeah.
They're incredibly short on flutes.
Flutes.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening.
Oh, that's right, she said that.
Well, give a list.
Flutes
Flutes,
and flutes
clarinets.
are number one. Clarinets, I think, are
Number 2.
they're probably. I think
Well,
sax is
sax
number
is
two,
number 2.
and then 3. But we have a lot of students. But I'll jump on
Sure.
because Erin has been fantastic. She has a new website set up for the
Yeah, I was
band.
gonna mention that.
It's
right.
linked onto each of our pages. When you go outside, she has another. She put up a bulletin board out here. Great communication. Has been active at our all school sings and engaging kids and going to the classrooms. She's been.
Do you
far really hit
have the
ground
2
running.
instruments I know that were donated by the parent
Yep,
groups
already.
from?
Yeah,
already
those
checked
are-
out.
Those are in there, right?
Yep.
So has there been any discussion with, say, middle school and high school? Because I know there are students there who may have bought a better instrument and have another one
Oh,
sitting
that's a good
around.
idea.
May have, there might be some who maybe are instead doing something else besides band, and there's an instrument sitting around. And if there was a way to let those families know that there was a need in elementary school, you might get a few more that way if there was some communication.
I do know
She's
there was.
meeting with Tom Nishaka, so that would be something that
Yeah,
you
good
could
idea.
let her know to ask Tom. See if
There
he can-
was some concern before that some of the instruments that come in might not be really
Well, yeah,
worth it.
yeah, then that's possible.
But I
Yeah.
guess we just take our chances,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well,
I think I think what we're recommending is contact parents. Because I know that if there are extra instruments in the band rooms, they're used when kids forget their instruments or can't
Yeah,
bring them
they have
because they
other
have a
regular
track meet
activities.
afterwards or something. So I don't know that they would have any, the high school or middle school would have any extra, but if they could communicate with parents, there would be things like.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what
we
I'm
have
thinking
one.
of. I'm thinking about the parent who bought
Yeah.
their kid a better flute or a better clarinet, and the old one is sitting there
Sitting in a
gathering
closet or
dust and
something.
could go back to
Yeah.
elementary school.
Take it out for
use.
taxes.
So that indeed was something we talked about today, finding a way to communicate, get the message out. We have gotten some instruments. I think Jill donated an instrument, was it last year?
No, just with in honor of Mr. Curdy, the
That's
parent
right,
group.
that's right.
the
That's
only
right. So we parents do on occasion bring in instruments that the ninth graders no longer using. So we want to do that and build up our inventory. So that's all I have. I wanted to keep it short, so then in the event there was some conversation or questions about our action plan.
Quick question about that, though, before we move on. I think we could probably get public service announcements on the radio if there was somebody who knew who to contact. So if someone, when it emerges that there's somebody to contact, if you have an instrument to donate, let me know, and I'll contact at least the radio station and see if they'll.
Well, the person in contact would be Aaron.
Would be Erin, exactly, yeah. And she's very responsive.
So just an event that people ask you, we have been slow to start band this year, and we've really have done everything we can to ensure success. So we've given her some freedom to organize the music, to purchase music books, to organize the space, and to get instruments fixed, to do an inventory. We didn't have an inventory. So a lot of instruments needed to be repaired, so we moved slow deliberately to let her get her feet wet, understand the program, do all those things, and then meet with kids, and then get kids excited about the band. So right now, we're looking at the Academy, a slight increase in the number of kids who've signed up from last year, so we're really excited about that, and I'm sure in all three schools. It's
And
the
she's
same.
been participating in all schools saying.
She's been on all three, and
Yeah.
she's very energetic up there.
Right.
And Tony's been working with her.
Yep.
Probably
And
Andy.
she's met with Andy Davis and Tom. So it's going well.
Okay?
Yep.
So, collecting your Vermont School Board Association surveys.
I mailed.
Okay, and I have this.
You don't have mine.
Yes.
I'm not modeling
And I
behavior.
don't have an extra copy yet.
That's okay, it's in here, it's just not filled out.
So if you guys have them, you can just pass them down and we'll start collecting them.
I'll do it soon.
And as soon as, I think we're gonna take another meeting before we get all of them in and then go through the tabulations.
Okay.
So, I wanted to spend a little time on the work plan that, I know Margaret sent out to you folks, and you got some.
Responded.
Yep, and I sent the
Information back.
response.
Yep, yep.
I
So
sent all, I compiled
those
all
were-
the responses and
Those were
sent them.
incorporated in here.
We hope.
When did you do that? Did I
Um,
send you responses? A couple weeks ago, or?
No, it was from the meeting.
It was
from
between the
time
last
we were
meeting and
supposed
this
to get-
meeting, and I sent it was early this week.
We were just supposed to
Monday
respond to
morning.
her, and then she emailed them on, but I think Peter and I copied everything.
Did I send you things? Do you remember?
No.
'Cause I don't recall doing that, but it's not the first thing I ever recall.
No, because you did actually, yes, you did
Okay,
respond to
great,
me.
thanks.
I'm thinking, yeah, because it's right here.
Anything that's not 20 minutes ago is...
Yeah, okay. No, I'm thinking, I understand. So, yeah, I did, everybody had something to add, and then
So if we just take a look at,
put in.
like this meeting, in the next couple. So we talked about continuing the action plan review with the focus on PD.
Professional development.
Thank you.
And we have the work plan in front of us and goals. There was a document that Jill had sent to me that I forwarded to the principals on principal reports. We should try to have a little discussion about that. And then we talked about finalizing the community forum and planning meeting, and then again, collecting the VSBA surveys. And then just if we jump down a couple meetings, we are having the person that worked on our summer breakfast program, Kira Hardigan Sawyer, working with Cafe Services and the principals on what we need to do in terms of the universal breakfast. And I think that meeting is the 25th at 10 o'clock with
10
principals.
o'clock at Oakwood.
And she's been working with Cafe Services about the quality of food. So we'll have some information. If we don't have it for the next meeting, it'll have to be the following meeting. As Jen said, the 1% project review, I think we'd like to try to start doing more of that, so Jen is gonna have a presentation next time. Typically, the 1% fund applications are due around then, so I'm not sure if that's on the radar, but, it may be that meeting or the next.
They're due to us October 1st.
Okay, so we
So
can
probably
put
won't
that
be till
later.
the 16th or the 6th.
Is the 16th not a meeting?
Well, let me get
now?
to that. And then we know we have the skateboard park people, they want to talk about a revised proposal, so that's scheduled for the 2nd. On the 16th, it looks like everybody can do the personnel matter. And so we'll schedule that, and that'll be a special meeting, probably be executive session time, so we would not have BCTV at that meeting.
So that one wouldn't be a regular meeting?
Will not be a regular, we'll warn it as a special meeting for personnel.
The communication we got about that said that it wasn't going to be...
Right,
an
they
executive
may
session.
want to be presenting an open session, but you'll need to go into executive session at various points. And depending on what is presented, there may be information that we need to have in executive session, so it really has to be warned that way. We might be able to fit a few things in, like the 1% applications and that sort of thing, but I'd like to keep that pretty open for that matter. And so I then bumped some of the things that you had provided or we know we need to continue into November. Assessment, climate survey, parent group update. And I'm just going to skip down to December 4th, because there was discussion about November 20th for the community forum, and I think what I picked up from emails where there was some conflicts on November 20th. So I just plugged it in as December 4th as a tentative date, and prior to that, then you would need to plan, schedule a planning session. So that's something that you should be thinking about.
Okay, well, that's kind of a jump ahead of what I wanted to have as a process. I wanted to try and follow the VSBA outline a little bit more closely, but in particular to not necessarily have it at our regular meetings, but maybe have smaller groups or particular groups that we want to. I don't know what the format should be, but to have a series of them, not just to have one sort of open community forum to try and develop a vision for the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I just
town.
plugged it in just to save,
A
just to make sure
spot.
we know we have something going. It doesn't have to be during a regular meeting.
I don't think it should be in December either.
So, a little bit later on the agenda is sort of talking about getting together to plan
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So, instead of taking the time
Yeah.
now to
Yeah.
talk about that, let's wait till
Okay,
then.
it sounded like, to me, it sounded a little bit like the plans were already starting to be made.
Yeah.
No, just,
Okay.
it's just
It's-
saving the dates, just making sure we don't lose these sorts of topics. And so, again, this document is, it's, you know, you need to look at it every meeting, towards the end of the meeting, to start setting the agenda for the following meeting, to make sure that you're gonna fit it all in, the timing's right, you have other issues that you're gonna have to deal with, so it's just kind of a working
And
draft.
so then, are we discussing things that we?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to make sure we discuss tonight, and I told Margaret I do have to leave at 6:15 for another meeting, but the question about the principal's reports. I think we should have some discussion about that. I don't think we're gonna be finished with that discussion tonight, but, you know, we should have some discussion about that.
So, given that we have 15 minutes of Ron's time, I guess I was wondering if briefly there was anything, I'd say, and we can, at the end of the meeting, we can, you know, you can think about this too. Just in the next several weeks, there was anything that you wanted to add that needs to be on this. Necessarily, when we get into February, March, April, and further out, it gets a little more, tenuous, and I think it's because things change over time. But, so I just, if there's anything really immediate that needs to go on the agenda or be part of a list, make sure that you jot it down and we get it at the end of the meeting, and I'll ask again. But then, if we could move to the principal report framework, I guess, that would be useful if that was okay with you guys.
Yep.
Okay.
So the continuing action plan review, we're going to put that off, or we're going to hold that off?
Yeah, I think we can also touch on, I mean, I think it's an ongoing, those are three really big documents, and I think that continuing action plan review is sort of going to be a recurring topic.
Okay,
until-
I read them all really carefully, wrote notes over. I thought we were going to visit each of them tonight.
Oh,
Clear, it's okay.
well,
It's just my
you've done your
expectations.
homework.
So Ron said, you
Yeah,
do
yeah, well,
all
no,
these
and that's
things.
We'll be ready for the
That's
next
good,
30
so
meetings.
No,
you're
I'll
way
forget.
ahead. So,
I have to take a nap, then
so-
do that, and then come to the meeting.
yeah, so I think, I just don't know that we'll
So
Yeah,
let's
get
do
as
what
far
Ron
as
yeah.
wants to do.
Unless you're going to stay all night.
So is everyone fine with going to the principal report framework?
So did you bring that original thing that I sent?
The draft.
You got to remember.
This thing's so
Right, right.
How would you like to start this? Would you like to hear from the principals or talk about your process? or-
I'll say two things, two quick things. That Ron had shared with me that he was concerned that this was going to take tons of administrative time, and I emailed back and said that wasn't the intent at all. It was
It's the
much
opposite
the
of that.
opposite. And if it's the question of like pulling together enrichment total number or whatever, maybe that just has to be done once or twice a year, maybe once in the fall and once again in the spring. These are just things that came to Dave in my mind in particular of things that we get asked at the grocery store type questions. Where does the money go in our town? What are we doing with it? What's going on with these sorts of things? And so it wasn't meant to be some drastic thing.
No, it really was, I think, just sort of taking the ideas that came from the meeting with Harry about understanding programs and establishing effective measures of progress and overseeing, or in our case, understanding some of the mandated requirements and how that affects other things that we might want to do, so that we can, as I said, serve as effective advocates. So it's really information. The idea is you can actually write a lot of these down and not show up.
Don't tempt them.
Okay.
And then if Deb, did you bring
I
that
did.
stuff? Because at EES, she shares all the time some written report documents that I don't know if you guys have ever seen, that Mark and I had talked about how it keeps us on policy council very aware of certain numbers and just very clearly there for you, so you can feel like you're on top of things as a board member that doesn't understand all the intricacies of what you do.
Well, if we're, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the tough thing in terms of replicating this is kind of a federal mandate in terms of the programming.
So the template's there.
There's a template there, you just,
Yep.
I guess you're
true.
a business administrator or
So that's why we were trying to make a
assistant.
template.
Collects the information
And it's
from
just
all
kind
the
of an
managers.
ongoing process.
Right.
It would almost be like Jim Kane would have to, it's a little bit different, the requirement.
And the thing about this is, like, the federal government has this requirement with Head Start that a lot of things are counted in a really concrete way. And I think, our work here, there's stuff to be counted, but there's also really understanding more thoroughly, all the aspects of the work of the schools. And I'll just point to Jen's report about talking about school climate. I mean, there's data, there's countable data there, and later on we do review things like school climate surveys and talk about how schools are addressing their data. But that holistic, I thought that was an excellent report. It's like showing the pieces of all the things we're concerned about in the school program quite concisely. On the advocacy side, I think when we get when we're talking about the program in public, it's great to know how many band students you have, and the numbers that you're asking for are useful to us in a different concept, in a different context. But just knowing how many students are doing X, Y, and Z doesn't help us understand the effectiveness or why this program over that. And those are the things that I feel like the board needs to know to make decisions well.
Jen's report's a really good example, because it happened because Jill asked her to clarify what that meant, and then she articulated very well the sort of the fabric of it,
Right.
rather than just the educational term for it. So I think, a lot of this is in terms of numbers, but at the second page, the topics to be discussed were, again, it was numbers, but it was also asking about understanding and what's being measured and how do we know the effects on students, how programs are adapted, more specifically, how do we use data to diversify instruction. They're all, those are a little bit meatier, but again, this was meant to be, as Phil just said, this was meant to be the beginning of creating a template so that it really just would be easier for us to get information that's useful and then explore other topics in more depth.
So if it's got to do with numbers, and I think it's important to know, like tonight John said Green Street is 69%. That's important to know.
Absolutely.
But that's not going to change. If it goes to 69.5 or 68.5, it's really, in my way of thinking, it's inconsequential. Do you really want to know that? I need to know that. So that may be something we do twice a year.
Right.
Enrollment.
I think if we put a number on here and you were just saying, well, that's important, so yeah, you wouldn't tell us, you tell us at the beginning of the year, and if it's a sudden change, like you had March a couple of years ago where you had 10 new
Right.
kids, Yeah, and you told us, and that's when you bring it back up to us.
Right, so we would, consider doing that kind of thing, a couple times a year, or if there's anything dramatic that happens. And the same thing on the top of the second page. I mean, everybody, all kids are in art, for example, but the number of kids in those other things would be something you might do once or twice a year as well. So at some point, once those programs are fully operational, there's 42 kids in band at this school and so forth. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's no problem. I mean, basically, if you're asking for numbers, I mean, that's not something we get. That's something we ask our secretaries. We make out this portion of this for us. And on a couple times a year, that's not a problem. I think the other things, some of the other things you're asking for are easily done. But if you're talking about understanding, that's a presentation.
Mhm.
So that's not something that we could just write. That would be a presentation. So, I love doing presentations, so it's more presentations. But that's something you need to think about and schedule. So what I would ask, what is it that you really want to know and about the schools, and then we can figure out how to deliver it. But it'd be more than a report.
Well,
We're
I
talking
think
about
that,
understanding how we use data to differentiate in the classroom. That's a great thing for you to know, but it's not going to be something we can just write down a piece of
Yeah,
paper
clearly.
and give you or
well,
talk
that's
for
why
2
it
minutes.
says topics to be discussed.
So that would
whatever
be-
you mean. And so,
right.
and I kind of thought that was going into the work plan type thing, these topics and these topics here is kind of a
And they very
combination.
well could.
Right.
Yeah, so those are good things, and frankly, I think, we would like to educate you more about the mission of the schools today. So, because you need to know, as you're a board member, but you're the advocate. You're the advocate for all of our students, and we do that with the stewards of the schools, with the advocates for all of our children, and we want you on that same page with us. We do it within our school community. We need you to do it in the community at large, through the budget, through your conversations with parents, through your work in the town.
Yeah, that's
We want
exactly-
you on
yeah.
the same page, and
It's those
sometimes I
grocery
think.
store
And
conversations.
sometimes I think we haven't done a good enough job of educating you about really the important things that we're doing with, so when someone says, why are you doing that? We want you to know exactly why we're doing that. But that's going to take time.
Right.
Here, I think we could easily do that because we do this stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But it's going to require you setting up some time here.
I think that's what we're asking for.
Yeah, it's kind of quantitative versus qualitative.
Well, no, it's both.
Yeah. Right, it's
Yeah.
Because,
both.
I
yeah.
mean, there is information in numbers as well. I think,
Yep.
did one of you had 10 families leave and 9 come back? Or 9 new families? And, I mean, how many, do we know why those 10 left? I mean, that would be useful information. Did they just move away, or did they go to private schools? Did they drop out? Who knows what? I mean, that would be helpful. Because that changed, I'm interested in knowing in the future to find out why people are leaving, why they take the kids out. So that's something that would be a number that would inform us. But I think maybe the next step, hearing what you're saying and knowing what Jill and I sat down intending to do, is maybe you could come up with some topics that you think would be very helpful for us to know and understand better, and I bet there's quite a few. And Jill and I, or some other combination of us, could go back and try and refine this and be a little more explicit about every few months for the numbers things, and then some of the other topics as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stuff about the programmatic numbers, I think that will be important to have as we enter the budget process, and then maybe again for town meeting, because, when we tend to get those, well, how many kids are affected by this program, that costs this much money. I mean, that's when saying, well, you're serving X number of students with band, and you're serving this number of students in after-school programs, and I think that's the place where having those kind of numbers, and having some knowledge of that as we look at the budget, I think that is where that would be helpful. I think the other topics, I think we could plug some of those into the work plan and say, okay, we're gonna have a half an hour on how you use data to differentiate instruction in kindergarten or fourth
I'm
grade
just
or whatever.
thinking, excuse me, Mary, but
Yeah.
the next Jen's RTI presentation next week could actually do that for the response intervention program for us. And you might
Right.
use your staff bringing in those results or the reports on the 1% to talk about. Because that's kind of why I wanted to hear those reports, is just to give it more flesh, understand it more thoroughly.
Deb, I have a question. Beyond the initial setup of the monthly report that you hand out to the policy council, how difficult is it to update the monthly report?
It's not,
Okay.
because we're really in sync and in tune with it, and we are in the process of becoming fully operational with a software system
Mhm.
that does all of this number counting, so.
And you've got somebody already has been doing it all along to.
Yes.
So it would not be theoretically that difficult for the 3 individual schools to come up with a similar template and then have somebody update it? But what I'm getting at is, I for one, I like the graphics. I would like to see in addition to the cumulative monthly numbers, I would like to see past history. You know, with the numbers beginning in September, have a column and maybe a lot of blank paper. But you add the columns for October, November, December, blah, blah, all the way through. So you can track trends. And if nothing else, I would want to see the number of students per school in different grades and the free and reduced lunch numbers. Those are just 3 numbers I would like to see.
And we need
And
to
we-
see those, Mark,
And we
because,
need to see those. But I
because
would-
those are the ones
Yeah.
that when I'm sitting there as a board member in front of the town, as a town rep, and somebody stands up and says, well, the numbers of schools have been going down for the last 15 years. I have no idea if he is right or wrong. And I'd like to be able to respond to that intelligently, and better yet, be knowing when I come up with a budget to the town and I say, yes, well, this is what's needed, and somebody out there says, well, you know, when I was on the board in 1985, we educated this many children for this much money. Okay.
So you turn to page 16 in the budget report, and you
Yeah,
see
there it
the
is,
history
yeah.
for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
With the exact number of kids, whether it's going up or down in
And,
each,
and
in
you
each
hear me
class.
say that the finance committee, the town finance committee got the wrong numbers when they put their report together that shows a higher percentage of decrease. And then I met with the committee and challenged those numbers, and they understood the difference.
Yes.
But we did have a few years of decline, but now
Oh,
we're
yeah,
back.
absolutely, but all I'm saying is, it's in our materials. I think in some cases, we just need to be really intentional, and I think we plugged in the concept of the budget training
Yes.
to kind of, to say, okay, so what are the things that you really will be asked, and what are you gonna need to know? As opposed to having a principal be able to say, well, you know, that's this person's purview, not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily know those numbers off the top of my head, nor should you be expected to, quite frankly.
But, you know, there are many questions that come up at those meetings that if you can't answer, they're wrong. You know, Ron will be able to answer, I'll be able to answer, we'll all be able to answer.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just be aware of revisionist history.
Right.
You know, because the way it was done in 1987 is different. You know, back then, school was just school. Kids came to school, they learned, and they went home. School is so much more than that today. You know, it's so much more. It's so much. School is so complex, and we're so highly regulated. And just in my career, the change is staggering in terms of the complexity of school and children and families and the kinds of things that we do. So when someone's saying, well, in 1991 it was like this, yeah, but 1991 there was no need for a free and reduced lunch program at Brattleboro Union High School or Brattleboro Middle School.
Isn't the internet?
And yeah, there's no internet. So the world has changed, and the way in 1991 you got your car fixed, and today is that everything's different.
So, for the 3 of you, I mean, truly, this was not meant to be some antagonistic effort.
Yeah, I don't think
It
that's.
wasn't-
You don't-
it wasn't
you don't-
perceived.
So
That's okay.
It wasn't
what
perceived
can,
that way.
what would it be a reasonable step for you guys? Do you want to shoot me emails and I'll just revise on this so we can look at another document? Do you want, how do you want to do
Well,
it?
I-
Go ahead.
Well, I would make a suggestion that maybe we could get together and make up just a generic list of some of the initiatives that we know are big parts of our school day. And match that a little bit with what we've heard tonight and what's on the board agenda. And maybe we can make up a list of topics. And it would be great to flesh that out for us so we know what to come prepared to talk about and get some extraneous stuff maybe on the side.
We have some monthly presentation.
Yeah, or
once a
like
month
we all
present
will talk about.
something.
Right,
It
and
would
I
be
would
nice
love it
if we
if we
could have
could
those
involve
numbers
staff
before the meeting.
hearing from staff.
Just send it to us in digits, and that way it eliminates you having to bring copies to pass out. We simply bring those copies with us, and we form any questions that we
As
may
easy
have
as you
ahead
can.
of time. You know,
And maybe the data that you're asking for, that data could be monthly or.
It could be
I
a
don't want to
monthly-
overburden our
yeah, I'm not gonna do it
secretaries.
on a monthly is good enough for EES. I think it should be well enough for us.
Well, I'd also like to say that we have an attendance council that's SU-wide that tracks
Yes.
population in the schools and data around attendance and tardiness. So
That's another thing. I would
That's
like
something
to
that's
know
out
is,
there that we wouldn't have to.
what's the
recreate.
absentee rate? What is the illness rate? What is the tardy rate?
Especially, yeah.
In
Illness is-
addition to, those are
Illness
tough.
is a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Well, absentee, that's,
Absentee, we need
Absentee.
that.
Absentee is pretty clear.
But tardy, which is interrupts, I mean, aside from the student not being there if he's sick, the tardy thing too.
so, I mean, those kind of things, frankly, I stay away from producing them, I think we all would, so I'm wondering if we couldn't monthly just have a form that we just send to Barb. And
Yeah,
Barb
and
puts
it
it
was-
in. Barb
and
puts
it
it
came
in.
with-
Ron's gone,
came
so
with the-
should
Barb puts it in.
And if it came with the agenda, and it's like, oh,
Something
here's
that
that
someone
letter,
creates.
date is.
With the agenda's perfect.
It's just-
You or Central
That's
Office
great.
creates it, we'll send it to Barb on a certain date, so it's in your
packet.
That
packet
would be
once a
easy.
month.
That
Yeah.
is great.
So
Yeah,
now
that
it's a
would be
task for
fantastic.
our secretaries,
Yeah.
because frankly,
So
that's
then-
not time well spent for us.
No,
So
well-
coming back to the other things that were on here that still would be probably for you and you're coming to us. We put down special programs events because we like hearing about the Oak Grove Harvest Festival and the Giving
Oak Grove.
Tree thing or whatever.
Oh, yeah, the giving tree.
Anyway, and I think too, I know being an academy parent, sometimes I sit here thinking, Andy, what about this that you don't say? So we put it on here because there are things going on all the time, and we didn't want you to forget to tell us about those things. And but more specifically, then, so we have. Well, this one, these are easy. The welcome back to school nights for both Green Street and Academy are obviously for the entire school. But then let's hear back how many attended. Again, so we can feel like if that's one of the actions plan items that says get parents in the school and get kids in the school.
So
There's some
here's
specific
here's
data.
the rub.
I know, it's hard to get
that we generally do that, but, okay, but what I do is I sit through, okay, we do a lot of elementary kinds of stuff, right? All the schools do. It's fun and, we try to keep it fun and neat events. And I feel like we're always pressed to fit it into a real short time frame, and then we don't get an opportunity, or you don't have an opportunity to ask us about the immediate things. And what I've been hearing is you don't necessarily want to hear that stuff. You want the meatier stuff. But now I hear you saying that you want to hear
That's
that.
why we did a report that you wouldn't have to talk about it. You could just write down, welcome back, all audience, 400 families here, successful, yes, because we had many families in school. That was the thought. You wouldn't have to spend a lot of time talking about it. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on that is valid to hear about.
Well, I think my suggestion would be that you need to, as a board, need to budget X amount of minutes a meeting for that stuff and X amount of minutes for these reports. Because I know in the past, the feeling I've come away with is when you put effort into a report or something is that it's like, Jesus, we're running out of time, we've got to move this along, not enough time. And we're always crunched for time at our meetings. So I look at that list of things and right away I'm saying, okay, where are we going to fit this in? So unless it's really time managed well and specific in your
Time
agenda,
agenda.
I don't think I think it's gonna be frustrating.
Well, if we can get
It's hard to do.
a number of the things that you currently report to us of a less urgent nature or less significant nature onto a form that comes with our agenda. You know, like the numbers we have wanted, students free and reduced, blah, 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 plus events that are coming prior to the next meeting. You know, so we have a column with that. And then, what you are very, very good at is touting the merits of each individual school and what we have to look out for on the horizon of each individual school that may come and bite us. You know, you're all very proud of what you do, and we're very proud of the schools in toto. So concentrate on what you can report best and you feel most comfortable with, and we'll tweak this document as we go. We may not need everything all the time. We may think of other things, but the idea is to maximize the time you have here, not reporting numbers that could come with an agenda, but telling us about what you think is extraordinarily important with your particular school.
Maybe
Am I
another
right on that?
place to cut time for everybody would be if we got on a regular basis the Oak Grove version of the Academy Caller and the Green Street thing.
We do.
The
We
news.
do.
I don't get the newsletters
I
from the
never
other
get
schools.
No, we don't?
I've never
No,
seen that.
I've never gotten in.
I
don't
only
think
see
the
Academy as a
either.
parent.
Sue
Never seen it.
Strong sends it out on a regular basis.
I've never seen that.
Ours is,
It comes in email.
I would
Well,
also say that our blog, our website is really up to date.
ours is pretty current too.
I
but
think,
then we maybe wouldn't have to report so much if we were seeing all of that stuff already as just like a normal parent would.
well, I think when I listen to these conversations, what I'm trying to find is the happy compromise to get you, all this information out there. But I don't know what
Okay.
purpose we're trying to serve.
Maybe you hit upon something. You say the information is out on your website. Maybe it's incumbent upon us as board members to go and take a look at the website and make copies of that as we deem necessary, or make notes off of that.
Well, and there's some stuff that wouldn't be on there, but I think
No.
that's a way to be in touch. And I know that Sue sends things out, and we're trying to do
Yeah.
less paper, more electronic. But I'm trying to figure out, like when I looked at this, like this section about after-school opportunities, this would be an incredibly time eater for us to go through that.
But that's a big thing, because it's all over, and that's part of the problem for us, is it's all over the budget, it's all different places, so we can't say, this is how many programs are running, so many kids are there, this is the range of things, and this is what it all costs. We can't combine that. We need that, and then Jim will do the other part.
So what I was going to say is, if it's on the agenda item that we decide we're going to report out about our after-school programs, we could give you a more comprehensive report about what we're doing and include the data with the numbers on that. But like month to month, that wouldn't
It
be
would-
very
yeah, it
helpful.
wouldn't be
I
helpful,
would
right.
have to be like, how many kids show up for Chinese this week and like that.
Yeah, no.
But if we
Yeah.
knew that, we would be able to tell you all about what we're doing, and that would inform the board, and we would have the data, and I think
Okay,
that would
sure.
that would do it.
That would
without
that would
adding-
get to that one. Yeah.
But I
And
would
if-
still like to see the running numbers of number of students in each class, free and
So-
reduced, and the
Just
attendance.
each
rate.
So,
That's just a lot of,
But
that,
the
that's
thing
a
is,
lot of.
so my question
numbers.
about,
But actually comes
my-
on the agenda,
Someone's gotta do that,
sorry,
that's
can I-
on a
time.
monthly basis.
Mark, so
Yes.
so the running numbers for how many students we have, so how does that, knowing that, over the course of a school year, how does that help this board to make better decisions about,
Because we
The
spent a bunch
governance
of
of the
time
school.
last year talking about the kindergarten numbers and how they're up. And it was like this big surprise. So to me, that
And
was
maybe-
just a question.
and
That's why I've
maybe-
asked how many classrooms are over 18 a couple of times. Because there was this whole discussion that maybe we'd have to look at that big issue of maybe moving kids to the middle school or whatever, which was thrown up
So
and then thrown
that
away.
was kind of we had a large incoming class, but once that class is intact, it doesn't fluctuate much throughout the year.
So I would say maybe the discussion would be on the agenda item, class sizes incoming, and then we come for that meeting, like what our class sizes look like, what we're anticipating in kindergarten in the spring and in the fall again. And maybe the numbers, Mark, maybe if Barbara were to report out our total population size and attendance data, that would, because that's generated already by
That would do it,
Paul
yeah,
Smith, that
something-
would do it.
That's
But to
fine
go
with
like,
me.
oh, do I have 17 in kindergarten, or do I, 18
Well,
in second
okay,
grade?
maybe that was going into the
That may
weeds
not
too
serve
far.
your-
No,
your
I would like
purposes
to-
anyway.
Any data that's already there would be fine.
But to go in, Andy's right, to go in and crunch would be.
be too much.
Just to piggyback on what Andy said a few minutes ago, when at our weekly PLC committee meetings, we always have agenda items, and then one of the agenda items is to set times for those items. So we'll say, how long do we think it'll take for this? How long do we think? And then we make sure that we do it in a timely way. So I don't know if that's something we
Yep.
could consider doing for presentations, for instance. So that it would,
And shift them around too, so
Yeah.
that you're not all kinds. I think we've got a zillion ideas. I don't know if we can all, right now, resolve
Well, I
it
think
all.
they're gonna go with the next step from what Jen was saying, yeah?
Is that,
And
is that
Yeah.
good?
I'd love to
Right,
sit
and
with
I
you and kind of
mean-
look through this again and see, I don't know if there's any ways we can
Just to note,
consolidate it.
back on the, it's interesting, because if you flip over the work plan, there's like a long list of.
It's all these
of
things.
All these things we want to know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
are sort of the topics. Feel like we need to know more about. And so I think if we could find a way to start having 15 or 20, like 15 or 20 minutes on things like, you know, after school or attendance, changes in attendance policy, special ed and STEP, RTI, all those things, that some of this understanding would fall into place, and having those data points that we can use as advocates in the coming year to just make sure there's
I think
more.
the thing about the data was coming back to what we were talking about with Carrie and the planning. So anytime we have something that's actually measurable, we should use it. That's why I'm saying it's impossible to know how many kids are really running around at the welcome back night. I mean, even, you know, you can try to count them and then they multiply or something. But to have an idea of, okay, so this was a 400-person attended event. This is great. This is the conferences. I always see on all the academy stuff that comes home, we're aiming for 100% participation, but I never see we got 600%.
Well, I have to interrupt you there,
Yeah.
because every academic conference, we report here, we all do,
Yeah,
what our
the
percentage was. We report it, we do it orally. And maybe orally isn't the best way,
I don't
I
remember.
agree, but we do it.
Yeah, no, I
We
feel
do it
like.
ad nauseum to you.
I feel like, no, and I feel like they say that every year. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember hearing that we
I'm
tried
happy.
for 100%, we didn't quite achieve
Right.
it, but I never remember hearing we got 65 or we got 92. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I always make a graph, I send it to Lyle, I'll be happy to pass the graph on to you.
We do that for Title I.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that's like, because
It's a
linked to
requirement we
federal
pass
money, so.
into them,
it's,
but we always, we tabulate and we report it out.
Yeah.
But you're
That's
right,
e-
open
that's
house
easy
is
to do.
impossible.
That's
We
right.
estimate.
It's impossible.
Okay, so where we're at is the principals are going to take a stab at a format. And perhaps we could go back to taking a stab at looking at some of these topics that we feel are most important that we want to have sooner rather than later, and get back to you, because a combination of you reporting or maybe having like staff come in and talk about a program, which I think is also really valuable. We can start planning those so that those folks will know that they're not going to have dinner that night until late and stuff like that.
So
You
I
had-
just want to ask how EES factors into
Yes,
this.
well, we didn't want to forget you.
EES is a springboard into this. We've talked about the integrated system, the vertical integration, from cradle to 18.
But how does she wants to know which administrative report she's going to have to do.
Right.
I think what we've already get from EES has,
Because one of those goes to the policy council too, and gets information. And
well, but she could bring these every time if you guys want that.
Those are also emailed to us
Yes.
every month.
Yeah, I get that every month.
So all you gotta do is open your email and there it is.
But
So
the thing
does-
is, this does not represent all the kids that are going to enter into the kindergarten. It's
No.
only
So, but
And it
her
doesn't-
question is, does she need to fill out some other report besides this? What does the board think?
I can't think of anything right now or yet.
And just when I have action items, as I did tonight, I usually incorporate that in my report, so I'll just try and ask her to list it as an item.
And if there's,
Agenda.
I mean, if there's something that's much more extensive, it can always be, like, when you're doing your, review and, things like that that are real, much more wide-ranging discussions. I have a feeling that the Canal Street School is going to be ongoing,
Yes.
so that can be on the agenda as well. Don't feel like we neglected.
No. But I'm going to actually be out for a period of time, probably for the month of November. And in October, I have some meetings that are on Thursday, on the nights that we meet. And so I was thinking that I might just do a written report as much as I can and have Barb send it out to you. So you might not see me for a period of time, but you'll have the news.
And if there was anything that you felt needed to be presented in person, there you have somebody that could come for sure.
Yeah.
I know you do.
Just wanted to comment, has not much to do with all this, but Andy, when you talked about how much school has changed, and then Jill gave the example of not knowing the answer to the numbers or the enrollment numbers, and it was I think it was my third budget year that I found that page that Ron mentioned, because there's so much information coming. Plus, we're under pressure from the state as well. They want to do away with us, basically get rid of us. But it's even figuring out what we need to know is a whole task in itself, and even knowing which questions. I mean, I don't know how many times we've had questions where I tried to clarify what do we want from administrative reports, and we're doing it again. But this time, I think we've got a direction. I think it'll be better for everybody.
Yeah, well, Andy, you pretty much hit it on the head when you said there are things that the principals know that they think we need to know, and we don't know that yet. So I think that's a great step forward. Because we haven't got the correct questions to ask, regardless of the fact that you have the answers.
I don't know of any other time I've ever served in any position like this that I felt so frustrated about listening to information and thinking, and wanting to know more or wanting to do something, and then I don't know what I'm supposed to do with what I get for information. Am I supposed to really be excited and understand every part of that? Am I just supposed to gloss over and understand it? And then March last year was horrendous for me personally because I felt like I had definitely failed in my position here, that I just didn't know what I needed to know. And I don't want to fail again. But I don't want to make your lives a living hell just because I felt like a failure either. I mean, try to find some reasonable semblance here.
So we need to help educate you in terms of what's important. So when you have comments from the public, whether it's here or wherever, that you can respond and feel like you're responding from a knowledge base. So we need to do a better job of that. All the number stuff, I mean, if you can clarify, and we'll do that, exactly what you want, we'll do it. It scares me a little bit because our standard in our industry, our practices, we're supposed to be being educational leaders or spend 50% of our time working with teachers and instruction. That's our standard, okay? And I'll say publicly, I don't come close to that. Now, every day it's a struggle, and every week I start out anew and say, okay, this is my schedule, I'm going to do it. And I think all three of us will say the same thing. And we don't come close because there's interruptions, there's data, there's numbers, there's interruptions, there's problems,
Buses.
there's bus problems that take a limited amount of time. There's discipline, there's parent rebuttal because it's very difficult to discipline children today. There's all kinds of issues that the world has changed. Our culture has changed. Our town has changed. And it's very complex. And on top of that, we're probably one of the most highest regulated industries in the country. I think probably only second to nuclear power.
Or a Head Start.
We are so regulated, and we spend so much of our time dealing with this stuff. Reports, data, and numbers, and we try to find time to still spend time with kids and teachers, because primarily we're here to work with children and teachers. And parents are, third. You guys are fourth.
Principal used to mean principal teacher, but it was always boys, buses, and boilers.
Boys, buses. I think it's elegant.
Or behavior instead of boys
Okay,
nowadays.
so do we feel like we have a little mandate to move forward? This may circle back again.
What did Jane write down?
She's been doodling.
So,
Endless, my arm is tired, I hope you don't talk much more.
Okay.
so anyway, I would also urge you, if sometimes when you say, I wonder about that thing I wonder about, it may actually be in the minutes. You know, Jane may have written it down, because I think sometimes the principals do tell us things and it might go by in the flurry of information.
Okay, so on this, we're not gonna come back to it much, right? We're about to move on?
No,
I have one
I was happy to come back to this.
I think we gotta move the budget up. Not, if we don't start until December 18th to look at, oh no, November 20th for budget training. I'd rather start sometime next month in October. And I think the first step is, you probably don't need to be there. It's me or anybody else who feels you want.
It's almost like we do some time with Jim
Yeah,
And-
and so
and last
so
year's
how
budget
about-
to just
so-
go through and ask
All right.
questions.
So you know what?
And not everybody else's time.
Exactly, it doesn't need to be these guys.
Right.
It's
So
for
so
us.
how about
It's remedial budget
I
training.
send and how about you folks send me an email with your available times
During
and
the day. because
during
Jim
the
was running
day,
during the day.
during Jim's work day, and I'll say to Jim, hey, can you spend some time with the board? And if the first step is to just look at last year's budget and clarify that, that's fine. I think also the other things that could be reviewed is just the process, what the principals get, where they start with their staffs and their programming, just a description of the work that you do before, because by the time it starts coming to us in our budget meetings in December, a world of work has been done and choices have been made.
Yeah.
And so I think the board knowing a little bit about that, and that could be done in outside of a regular board meeting. And so if there's gonna be a training, we could warn it as a special meeting, but set up some times to do that. Does that start to get to where
Yeah, it's just-
you, and I'm
If I
sure
just
that
sent that
Peter
to you.
would be part of that,
Yeah.
would appreciate that as well.
So
And that
are we looking for like a couple of weeks, or, you know, like in the next couple of weeks? just
Yeah, I think.
Send you the first 2 weeks of October, whatever. our
Well, I know
availability.
that you and Jill are both traveling.
I'm going next week.
Yeah, and
Jill, I
Jill's
think, the
traveling,
week
yeah,
after.
so it may not be
I can try.
right away, but,
Yeah, oh no, I wasn't thinking
Is
right
there-
away.
but soon, so.
I was gonna say, don't probably yell it out.
Huh?
I need the password, but I don't know if we wanna put that on TV.
No, I don't.
No, no.
That's
Um,
notes.
So we can work on getting
Okay.
going on that part, because there's,
We're passing notes now.
and I can note here that for that November 20th meeting, we don't need to be doing budget training during a regular board meeting, but there could start to be some discussions about some big budget items we need to be considering, like.
Yeah, let's not wait until we got the whole thing.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
or some changes programmatically or enhancements programmatically you guys are looking at. So that's what I would say.
No,
Well, can I jump in and say we've had a finance meeting for the SU? And one of the charges that the representatives of all the boards gave Jim was to come up with essentially 3 different budgets. So he's gonna be working on that, with a level funded, level service, and a 1.5% increase.
This is for the SU budget,
This is, well,
or our share of
the SU budget, yes, but it's probably gonna encompass all 3 of the,
Right.
or I'm sorry, all 3
Five.
of the elementary school, all 5 of the districts, to get to that figure. So that's what he's gonna be working on.
Well, that's.
Well, I think that's a whole different discussion about what we want.
But I'm
What
just
we want in the SU.
saying, he may be busy for a bit.
He's always.
Well, he's always busy.
He's always.
But I have not gotten an end of the year budget yet. And it's, I mean, I know everything has to wait 60 days to get paid before you declare a loss and stuff like that, but it should be available by now. I haven't gotten one. And Jim may have my old emails. I don't know if everybody else has gotten
Oh,
one.
so talk about how we did last year. I mean, I know he put out a projection in June, but
June 5th, yeah.
We could ask him
Yeah.
again. I'll ask him about that.
Well, essentially,
Just-
11,
I'm sure he's got it in data.
Yep.
You just haven't sent us
Yeah.
the file.
the level funded budget would be the last budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. we
No,
don't-
but I mean,
Ignoring all
what David is asking for
Oh, yeah.
is
The
the
individual-
actual versus budget from
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, the
What was over, what was under.
Sure, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Where stuff got shifted.
Budget.
Okay, so, could you just bring us back to the agenda here?
Okay, all right.
So on the agenda is action plan review, and I'd like to ask the principals how you would like to handle this, given that it's 6:45, and not to rush you along, Andy. I feel your pain.
No, I come to these meetings, I think I'm here till you're done,
Yeah.
so.
Well, we love having you here.
Yes.
So I guess the thing is that we were given the 3 action plans to review, and I wanted to know if the principals wanted to talk briefly about the main thrusts of their plans for this year, and then entertain questions from the board, because I certainly know that David took a lot of notes on his action plans. So
You should also have EESs.
and EESs as well.
Yep, the strategic plan.
Strategic
yeah.
plan.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Deb. I don't take tests.
I don't.
It's where I'm sitting.
It's fine. I'm used to
So,
it.
so how'd you like to do this?
Maybe we should start with your questions, and if you have a lot of
Okay.
questions, that might, what do you think?
Yeah.
Questions are good.
No, okay. So, whoever has questions.
Yeah, I feel like I presented an overview last night, so.
Yeah.
Oh, you're baiting out of this one?
No, I'm open.
Well, I look at mine, and it's, you had it for 2 weeks, and I don't want to be reading it to you.
Right.
No, I
Right, right,
don't want
so
to do it, no.
Start with questions.
Okay, go.
No, I think, well, on the academy one, the first page talks about the safe, healthy, respectful environments, and the needs identified are really, they're right there from in the building and here with our students. But the standards in literacy and math, the only needs are kneecap needs. And for kids that are doing fine on kneecaps, the only reference I saw to them was the teachers of differentiated assignments. And I was wondering about, maybe, and this may be part of the report on differentiation, but what are some examples of things that are done for the kids that need additional challenges? They don't seem to be addressed really in any of the action plans, at least not specifically, other than the general comment about differentiation.
You're saying for kids that do fine on kneecaps?
That get 4s and need additional
Oh,
challenges.
they get it.
Yeah. So this year, I can just tell you, it's not in the plan, but this year, we're presently with and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have an increase in the beat position, was to address that, so that three times a week in all grades, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the academy kids have pulled down, we call it skills block, and that's our RTI model, response to instruction model.
I thought it was response to intervention and behavioral.
It's kind of used interchangeably. Both people use it. RTI.
Intervention is the national term, but Vermont being different, called response to
No
instruction.
wonder I get confused.
Right? That's
It's an
Vermont's
acronym
unique,
of
but
changes?
it's RTI. But it's the same thing. But what was I?
Skills block.
Skills.
Oh, so skills block, so all of our students go to a skills block, and it's student driven. So students that need intervention get intervention, students that are on grade level or are achieving at the moment to a satisfactory level or a high level, they will get enrichment as much as we can do. And by the increase, that 50% increase in the beat position has enabled us to use that position in all skills blocks except for 4th grade. So in kindergarten, in grade 1, in grade 2, 3, 5, and 6, that person is part of that constellation of teachers who, in that skills block, and she does the enrichment. So it's increased the number of kids who have that opportunity, and will expand their knowledge in that content area. It's both math and literacy.
Yeah, that's a really great example of something I'd really like to hear. Some example, you have a teacher or somebody come in and give us examples of the kinds of things that the kids, what the additional challenges are that the kids are getting. Because that was also, when I, actually it wasn't in your action plan, Jen, but in the first day celebration, you described the skills block intervention workshop.
That's Oak Grove.
It's Oak Grove,
Yeah,
sorry.
great.
No,
Yeah,
I'm okay.
you know what I mean.
I did.
Yeah, about the skills block, what we do to support students who struggle in a particular area or with specific skills. It doesn't really mention the challenge, the academic challenges, kids that need a more active, more challenging activity. So it's just, it looks like we're not responding to it. And I know in the case of Green Street, there's a lot of concern from parents about that.
Yeah,
And,
we were late adopting the skills block model. We did put that in place this year.
Mhm.
It's 3 times a week, but not, instead of Monday, Wednesday, Friday like at Academy, we're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's how we built it into our master schedule this year. So we're still just getting our feet wet with it, but we are now doing that same exact thing that Academy's doing. The kids that need remediation in math or literacy get it during that time, and kids that need additional challenge will also get what they need.
So at Oak Grove, and I know in the parent workshop, we were targeting that workshop about intervention, but our skills block is 4 days a week in the K-3 block and 4 days a week from 4 to 6. And one of the things that we've been able to be involved with that is to add enrichment as part of that. So there's actually, we don't have the beat teacher 4 days a week, but our, the person you'll meet next time, John Sessions, works as a special educator, is actually working closely to help develop with his team. The 416 is amazing, and they're developing enrichment blocks around math, literacy, and then in the younger grades doing the same things around providing challenges for students that are beyond the curriculum already.
Mhm.
And then Andrew Horton, our librarian, also provides enrichment through a writing block, and she's joined that team. So
Right.
there are things happening for sure. So
Yeah, I
that's
don't
another
question,
example.
I'm sure there are. The problem is it doesn't, what I
Always
saw in
reflect.
reading these
Yeah.
is that it doesn't show up really clearly articulated. And on your plan, it talked on the 3rd page of the 5th thing, teachers use formative assessment tools and techniques to inform and test instruction. Again, it's there, it's clearly being done, but it doesn't, what I'd like to hear is some specific examples from every range of student performance. I mean, that's something I'm going to be asking about a lot, because I think
Right.
it's
To be honest with
really
you, that,
significant.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, it's okay.
That's an area that we struggle in.
Of course.
And you know, we devote a lot more time and attention and funding to our students who are struggling. That's our largest number of students. If we look at
And you're
students
measured by that achievement gap. That's the only thing we get a measurement.
Well-
that you're held to task for.
Well, but that in of itself is not a bad thing, because we know we have at least 50% of our kids come into kindergarten and they're not kindergarten ready. Okay, so we have to get them kindergarten ready. And that's not only in socially, emotionally, but that's academically, in math and literacy and so forth. So we spend a tremendous amount of time doing that, and that population for us is increasing in our system. Okay, so we have to, and we have less staff. We cut some positions last year. We lost a full-time Title I teacher. You know, so we've got more kids, more needy students, and we have less staff right now to address that. So it's a struggle for us. I know Oak Grove had to cut. You lost the position, portion. You lost
portion
a
of
portion of
Title
the
I,
position.
yeah.
So you know, that's a challenge, and we struggle, you know, to do it. And we'll continue to struggle. And that's one of the things that makes our budget so expensive. It makes it so expensive to educate our students, because we have both ends of that spectrum. We're committed to advancing both ends of that spectrum.
And I think the thing that we need to remember too, and I think sometimes it's hard to remember because we don't have elementary school students anymore, but the principals have talked very eloquently year after year about the importance of getting it right in elementary school, because it's the foundation of the future for all these kids. And so that so when you hear people say, oh, we spend so much time on kids that are struggling, but the reality is if those kids don't learn to read, by the time they're in third grade, their chances of being successful in the rest of their life are really small. And that is the key mission of elementary school, is getting people ready to learn the stuff they need to learn, some of which we don't even know what it is yet, to be successful in the next
Yeah.
70 years. And
Next
so, well, if, you know, so, so personally, being a politician right now, you know, it doesn't bother me that we spend a lot of time helping kids that are struggling, because it's such a key function for society, you know, to get those kids to where they need to be. And, you know, and I understand, you know, if you have a gifted student or a student who needs extra challenges, I mean, we need to serve those kids too, as well as we can. But that focus on success for everybody is, that's the mission of elementary school. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that, you know, that's the thing.
I haven't forgot that, and it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me that we spend a lot of resources, and I want to be able to advocate for even more
Yeah.
resources so that that can be done. The reason that I feel the urgency is that I'm aware of how many students, elementary age Brattleboro kids, are in private schools. And it's probably well over $1 million of revenue we would have if we had those kids back in.
How do you figure the revenue piece?
Well, it's about $10,000 or $12,000 a kid.
We don't lose that money.
We don't get it. If the kid's not in our school, we don't get the money.
Right, we don't pay it towards, I see what you're saying.
We don't get the
We don't pay
state or the federal aid for
Oh,
that
right,
student
right,
if they're in a
right.
private school.
Right.
So that's how I figure it.
Right. So I can just tell you in the last 2 or 3 years, I don't have the number yet, I can probably have it for October 1, but last year we had 11 students came to Academy School from local private schools.
But
And
most of
we've
them
got-
came back for special ed services, right?
No.
That, well, the private schools are saying that that's why.
That's, well, I don't know, I can't speak for the private schools. I can tell you is those 11 kids that came to our school did not come for lack of special ed services. So, and I'm really happy that I know, and you know, it's probably happening in other schools as well. So, but that's a struggle. You know, 2 years ago we ran ads. We ran an ad. That's a struggle because if we lose those kids, then our free and reduced numbers are going to continue to go up even more. But if we lose those kids, I think it's a death knell for the community. If you look at some communities around us,
Yeah.
you look to our north and south, that's exactly what's happened, like Greenfield, Mass, for example. And you have that middle class flight out of the school system and try to sell property.
I think we have
Businesses
that.
and so forth.
I think we're in danger of that tipping over very soon. I don't think we're at 1 in 8 elementary age kids are in private education in this community, Brattleboro residents.
Really?
1 in 8, 110 kids. That was last fall, and I'm certain the number's more. And next month I'll call around and find out. But that's a lot of kids, and I think I wasn't aware of that until I started going around.
But, you know,
And that's, I mean, if we want the public school to be able to help close that achievement gap and make sure those kids can read, but if we continue to lose, the parents that are leaving are parents that are politically astute. And in other states, those people have gotten the money to follow the kids, to go to the charter schools, even in some, well, not religious schools, but to go to the charter schools. And we've held that off in Vermont, and we've not been able to qualify for a lot of federal aid because of that. And I think I support that. I think that's a good way to go, but I think we have to be painfully aware of meeting the needs of those kids, keeping those kids in the school, and almost more importantly, keeping their parents.
Right. Well,
Because
we're
they're
painfully
engaged
aware of
and
that,
active.
but I will tell you that awareness is only the first step. That we're painfully understaffed to address that.
Right.
And that's, you know, I mean, originally we asked for last year, for example, additional 1.0 FTE increase in the B position. And I'm very grateful we got the 0.5, and that was the appropriate increase given the budget constraints. But it was a great compromise, and we're happy for that. But we can use one in each school to do that.
I mean,
I would love for us to focus our efforts this year on finding out how to make that happen.
Right.
Because it clearly is what things don't we need as much as we need that. That's what I'd like our budget conversations to
Well,
be
and
about this
I
year.
think it's a larger question as well. The lady that came and spoke last month, I've heard that in many different ways from the community, that's, the focus becomes all about the kids that have to be caught up, and then the kids that are doing well and coming in at readiness and wanting to exceed. There's an impression out there, wrongly or rightly, that the teachers are not being allowed to teach to those kids and push those kids.
Well, it's not a level playing field. There's no admissions process in a public school. I mean, they come through the door, we have to serve them.
And
It's
you need
different-
more
it's different
resources.
rules, yeah.
But I'll just use data because there weren't too many things that were spoken at that meeting that I would agree with, and I have evidence to challenge those things. But I'll give you a piece of data that 6 years ago, using the state assessment, at academy school, only 3% of our students score at the highest level in NECAP, the state assessment. That's a 4. Last year, in math, last year 27% of our students achieved that level. And at the same year, 6 years ago, only 30% achieved at the lowest level. This past year, I think it was 7%. So we've completely flipped that. So what we're doing, we have improved achievement for all of our students, in spite of what some outliers may think or feel. And I think we have good data in all the schools to support that and show that and we have people who are working. Our elementary teachers work so hard, and they worked hard. Remember when I got spending my career at a secondary level, I got to academy school and I said, you guys work harder than any teachers I've ever been with before. And they work so much harder now than they did 6 or 7 years ago. The demands we've placed on them is incredible. They are working hard, but they're working hard every day to differentiate instruction, to push our top kids higher, to stretch those kids, and to pull up our bottom kids to get them ready to go on to the next grade. And we're amazingly successful as a district at doing that. And we're getting better. We're getting better at it. That's the exciting part of what we're doing, is every year we're continuously improving. And our teachers have bought in. By and large, our teachers have bought into that. But it's been difficult. Not all teachers have bought into it. And some, weren't able to make that change, and they've left. That happens in every industry.
Just to go back, I mean, you were in talking about private schools, and, the private schools that are local to us, none of them are brand new. They've been in our community. I think the youngest one has been here for 20-some years. So it's been part of the educational landscape in this town for a really long. I mean, St. Michael's is 100 and some years old. They've always been there. There's always been families that have chosen those schools over the public schools, which isn't to say not to be concerned about losing students or losing families, but it's not as if suddenly there's 5 more private schools that have sprung up in the region that are, it's not.
But the question
That
is
kind of
whether there's
landscape.
suddenly a lot of more kids being.
I
The
don't.
question isn't the number of schools, it's the number of students enrolled, and they have all
And-
seen significant growth of Brattleboro kids.
Well, I can tell you that's not true at neighborhood schools.
Yeah,
I know that in fact is the.
it's not.
is the
Yeah, we
curve.
just
It's
It's
got
definitely true
one
at
of
St. Mike's and Montessori.
I don't know about that, but I'm saying that neighborhood school is not true. That I get first.
Again, this is one of those questions that I don't feel like I have the data to answer.
No.
What is the historical
Yeah.
of the population of the town, of the kids, like you were saying, is in that, but then what is that same figure of how many have chosen to go to a private school?
And we don't interview people when they leave, so we don't know why they leave or where they went. So that's a data point that I think would be very valuable.
Yeah, we should. Actually, interview.
I don't want to stop this conversation, I'll be rude, but did you have other questions?
No, that was it, pretty much it. Just it's not really addressed as articulately or as directly as I'd like to see. And further down the road, we'd love to see examples of how exactly we're doing that, so that the message goes out, and we're able to articulate as well. We do a lot for those kids. But also, just on the information that I just got about, Nate just said about, we need more enrichment people and to start, look at what don't we need, so we can get that.
I'd like to comment on this in general and the other ones, but the more numbers, the better, and I was looking at that at policy council, and Amy, particularly in yours, there are a lot of numbers. So this is positive.
I'm sorry,
There are numbers.
in the action plan.
Yeah, so then we can say we've met that, or we, measurable things. I mean, the district-wide action plan is a little bit hard for me to wrap my mind around a little bit because,
Well, we need Ron here to.
Well, it's,
well, no, I mean,
It's a really
it's
big
big.
picture.
it's a really big system
Yeah.
with 5 towns and,
But
you
to
know.
provide a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment while all students grow academically, socially, and emotionally. And our challenge to reach the potential as local and global community members. Those are great words, but I don't know how you really.
Well, to some degree, we then take that,
You make
know,
that
and
real, yeah.
make it
And
down,
each one
yeah.
of the individual schools.
right,
Didn't we have a
And then we
long
back it up
discussion
with
on
numbers.
mission statements? And
I'm not sure if we got the right draft of this, because almost all of the goals are already met, or should have been.
it's a 2-year plan.
He said it had been updated and he was going to give us more.
Well, timeframes, I mean, there's one that ends in I think there's,
June of
2.
2012.
yeah, there are 2 that end in, after today. And the rest of them are all, one's June 2013. Well, that
There's
happens
several,
too.
there was one.
But it's, so
June
he said it was
21, yeah.
coming with an update.
Okay, because I just,
Oak Grove too here, there's a lot of numbers, which is, this is good. It's very clearly laid out.
Well, and I think, and I know we're getting on in time, but I think when I look at our action plan, I think I don't have the data to be able to talk like Andy does about our numbers with kneecap. And being so small, I don't put a whole lot of weight in kneecap because one child can be 5 to 6% depending on the size of the classroom. But I can say our Ames Web and the formative and interim data that we're using is showing progress with our students, and I can show that data. But when I listened to what was presented last meeting, and I try to compromise those, and I see that there's a lot of regulation in our state. But what they presented, the more I went back and thought about it and talked to people at our school, isn't what we feel we're doing. And it doesn't represent how we feel about the work we're doing. And I think when you look at our action plans and you see that balance of the requirements of the state and the requirements of the things we need to do for math and literacy, and you balance that with our social curriculum and our safe and healthy schools, and our climate, and our parents, and our outreach, and our music, and our arts, that we really are working hard to make sure that we have this whole education for students. And I would be glad to share more about that at every opportunity to help
Absolutely.
educate all of you in our community. Because, like you said, we're very proud of our schools and the work we're doing.
Well, come March, please be there.
Okay. I'm always the one back there in the seats back there.
That's right,
Yep.
we're in the back.
So, I had the opportunity to do some presentations about the work that we've done at the school or in the district, and 2 other principals. We presented in Philadelphia, we presented at the state board. This summer at Killington for 2 days, we're presenting at ASCD again this coming spring. And people, I was amazed at how much stuff we've got for kids, so we talk about Spanish, and that's a rarity, to be able to offer Spanish or language, French or Spanish enrichment. Many schools have eliminated those things if they ever had them, and they're struggling just to keep art and other things in there. So we're very thankful to the community for the kinds of support, financial support we've gotten to keep those things, and increase those things. I mean, we've increased in the last several years. We've increased foreign language offering. We've increased enrichment. And we haven't really cut anything to do that. Our cuts have been when federal funds have.
We've dramatically increased
Been-
remediation.
I'm sorry?
We've dramatically increased remediation in the last 4 or 5
and
years.
gradually increase the after-school programs, very intensive.
We've dramatically
Yeah.
increased at the school program. I think my report last year to you, when you asked for it in the spring, we had 212 students participating at the second session, the winter session at Academy. So it's a huge program. And people look at that and they think, my God, who pays for that? Where's the grant? And, do you have a bus? I mean, we have all those things. We have Chinese and chorus at the school, and extended band, all these things going on.
Good
We have
food.
mad science and all these things. And right now, they're all coming out of local taxpayers. That's all in our budget. So that's phenomenal. That's very generous. But wherever the mouse struck, and I'm presenting usually with two teachers, Jean and Maureen, people are amazed. They say, well, oh my God, you know, is your community really rich? It's not, but it's very highly supportive of elementary education.
And it took 5 hours, you can tell this year. 5 hours last year, too.
And it passed by 6 votes, last year's budget.
But, you know,
Yeah.
I coached baseball for a long time, and I always told the kids, it doesn't matter whether you win 2-1 or 10-1, you won. So, it passed by 6 votes, it passed.
Well, Jim,
But we
please
got
bring
next year,
Andy,
too.
and Andy, bring your bat. because
We got this year.
You know,
There's a
well,
couple things that-
I've talked way too much, I'll shut up.
What?
No, yeah,
A
that's
couple
good.
things that we have, like, from the last meeting that we did.
Yeah, we're not through the agenda. hate to say it, guys.
We're on the same page.
So, keeping these plans in mind, you know, as we go through the rest of the work is, for us, it's a good framework to keep referring back to and asking about. So I would ask, don't lose the pages, look at them from time to time. And I am gonna move folks along.
Which clock is right?
Not
That
that,
one.
that one's never.
Oh, that's good.
That one's been at that the whole time.
That was,
Really?
Yeah.
And it's only an hour off now.
yeah, that's about 500 miles out.
I
of the
have a few things left.
I have a little announcement.
Right, and so there's a few things. So, the VSBA, Vermont School Boards Association, has presented us with an invoice for our annual dues. And,
I didn't go to that meeting, I didn't vote to raise the dues,
okay,
but I would have.
so it is, and so VSBA, they've been very especially helpful to us this year. If folks can go to the conference in October, it could be very useful. Our dues are based on pretty much the size of our school district. And for us, the dues are $2,679.03. And so I would accept a motion to approve
So moved.
paying for those dues, which are in the budget.
I still move.
Okay.
Any
Any other discussion, debate?
Just, no, but just as long as we're on that topic, I'll do my announcement now
Wait a minute.
about the.
I'll let you do it right after we vote on this.
Okay,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
It was 2,600.
Okay, so what were you gonna say?
well, you mentioned the conference, and it's generally true, it is useful, and it's very interesting, and you'll be surprised at all the things you'll learn, and interesting people you meet. But this year, the night before the conference on Wednesday, and I think I mentioned this or emailed something around about it already, October 23rd, the night before the conference at Alumni Hall in Dartmouth College, Diane Ravitch, who is a noted education author and scholar, is going to be talking about the major national trends in education based on her new book. And for a school board member, Vermont school board members, for $25, we can go and get a signed copy of the book. And the copy of the book's a good deal. But she's really a remarkable educator, a remarkable speaker, and she's been involved in every aspect of education reform, and very knowledgeable. And I would strongly encourage people to come. I'll drive the both ways too.
Are you going here for sure?
I'm going for sure.
I was thinking about it.
Okay, so we can talk about carpooling that
Yep.
on email.
Well, I wanted to know, we have funds to go to this, isn't that the thing?
Yes, if you wanted to go to the conference, there is
You can
some,
stay overnight.
there's funding available, it's part of our budget on the school board line. Does anyone have anything to add to the next agenda, next month's, given that we have the breakfast program, we have RTI review, perhaps one for, not 1% funds, and the skateboard park.
Do we have any idea how well attended the skate park revision proposal is going to be? Are we going to have to allow more time for that?
No.
May I respectfully
Yeah.
request that my person gets to present before the skateboard park?
Yes.
Everybody's going before the skateboard.
Okay.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should invite them to come later or something.
Why don't we just say the skateboard park is gonna be at 6:30 or something, so that people don't have.
Yeah,
We can make a note in the agenda that,
and
but
let
no,
them
we
know.
would, I definitely want the
That would
teachers
be
to go
great.
first.
Yeah. The only thing,
I will not be here next week. Next week.
Lucky you.
good plan.
I have
The only thing
opinion.
I would add is what we just all talked about is continuing the conversation about the administrative reports. Unless 2 weeks is too quick to,
You're gonna get back to us with something next, right?
We'll do our best. We'll give it a-
yeah, that's all we can ask.
College, try.
Um,
And did we decide anything about, oh, we're gonna email you about budget, about budget.
About budget, yeah, so make sure you email me about budget times, I'll try to get a meeting set up. I may or may not be there, I may or may not present it, you never know. Work and things like that.
Where are you at on the agenda?
I'm at the very end of new business, I'm on other now, so is there any other?
Well, just this, that we didn't really sum up the agenda and how it works, and Dave sent this around about,
Oh, yeah, the
I thought it'd be good
public-
if we adopted something like this.
We can put that off.
Oh, yeah, we could, I'll add it for next time about having there be public comment on the agenda.
Yeah, and just have, yeah.
That,
And what we said, you know, how do we don't, it's, people can comment, we're not necessarily gonna respond.
right,
And the only thing that's different about this is that the select board's practice is if it's on the agenda anyway, then you don't comment during public comments for things that aren't on the agenda,
the things that are not,
Because the things that are on the agenda, people can comment during the meeting,
right.
if we want.
So public comment is only for things that are not on the agenda.
Right,
Okay,
and the chairperson can limit it,
yeah, yay,
can make reasonable rules.
okay, that's not my strong suit, well, reasonable rules, I only do the unreasonable ones. So, yeah, let's just move that to the next thing. I mean, so what I'm trying to do, you may have noticed, I'm trying to sort of adopt that like systematic thing that you want,
absolutely.
so that it just moves along and without us having like a big and wordy policy or multiple meetings between the vice chair and the chair.
And Jane gets it down, and then Barb knows about it, and it goes on.
Okay, so
Well, system.
if anyone does not have any other, I would
moved.
accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, and I'm gonna.